Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Daniel Hood Roofing. And he's sitting right beside me right now. But that just makes it even easier for me to tell you that Daniel Hood will care more about finding you the perfect roof for your home than any other roofer in East Tennessee. I know that. We've talked about his business many times. And it always goes back to what he can do for the customer, not the other way around. You're not going to find a more conscientious contractor to take care of your roof than Daniel Hood. Proud to say it. Proud to have him on the show. DanielHoodRoofing.com to learn more. All right, let's welcome in these guys. We're not going to look at each other because that would feel silly after that. I don't want us to get the vapors. All right, rapid fire like it's the 1860s. 4 questions. Everyone gets about a minute to answer theirs. Daniel, you're up first. What is the better sign moving forward for this Tennessee team? 8 tackles for loss on defense yesterday, or 6 of 7 in the red zone, and technically maybe 7 of 7 in the red zone.
Right.
Which is more important, that tackles for loss, red zone?
It's a very tough question because you look at the identity of what this football team wants to be, 3.5 plays a minute. They're obviously emphasizing getting points on the board. But I'm going with the tackles for loss because I checked it this morning. Tennessee is now tied for 7th nationally in total tackles for loss, where they're actually averaging 8.5 tackles per loss per game. So that has to be something these coaches are emphasizing. And it is a number, too, that on offense, they're not that very high offensively in total tackles for losses. So I think this is something that Heupel has a big circle around and he's wanting to be. And I think that has to be for their defense.
They said they were going to be aggressive, and that's a stat that says they are being aggressive.
Very.
And your answer sounds like a former defensive lineman's answer. Very good. All right, let me go down the panel here to Josh. We'll go down there. What is the better sign moving forward for Tennessee? Just 2 penalties for this team yesterday. We showed last week that Heupel has a history of a lot of penalties on his teams. Just 2 yesterday, or 0 turnovers from the offense in 2 SEC games in a row. What's the best sign there?
I would go to turnovers. The penalties part is good, but I would also realistically expect you're going to have some games where you're just going to have some penalties. It's going to occur, and we know that you can win. While coaches don't want them, you can win with penalties. Josh Heupel has won with his teams having penalties. I don't think too many coaches are going to say, yeah, we can overcome turning over the football. And with what you just said about the defense, if they continue to be aggressive and they take the ball away, which then sets up the offense to have success, that's a winning formula.
Yeah, and that whole turnover margin thing has really flipped. They were, -5 to start the season. Now Tennessee Tech played a role in that too. But when you go to Florida and don't turn the ball over, and then you go to Missouri and don't turn the ball over, that's credit to the offense and credit to Hendon Hooker too. So, Jimmy, I'll give you the next one. Speaking of Hendon Hooker, would Tennessee be 4-1 right now if they had started Hendon Hooker versus Pittsburgh?
I think so. I think he's better than Joe Milton, and I'm not trying to knock Milton. I just think Hooker's a really efficient quarterback. And I've moved him up the ladder to where I think he's in the top 7 of SEC quarterbacks right now. I like the way he's throwing it. I like the way he's running it. I like the way he's operating this offense. Now, you could argue he's gotten better, and that is true. But even against Pitt, I thought that if it had been his game from the start, it might have eliminated some of the mistakes that they made. Offensively, I think they could have outscored Pitt. I just think Hooker's a real effective quarterback, so I'm going to say yes.
I said last week I think he's an average quarterback. Sticking with that, I think he had an above-average game yesterday. But put a couple more of those together, keep the touchdowns rising a little bit and the interceptions down, I'll say you're above average. I got no problem being wrong on that one.
It's trending.
So, yeah, he's trending. He is. And Marlon texted me yesterday and said your quarterback gaining confidence. I agree.
Yeah.
So, all right. And I know Marlon will be happy that I agreed with him. Chuck, he was sweating all night. After the game, Josh Heupel said, "This is the tip of the iceberg. We're just scratching the surface of what we're capable of." Is that a message you believe, as the Vol fan that you are, the bright orange wearing Vol fan that you are, or being a Vol fan these last few years, would you prefer your coach never use the word iceberg?
Yeah, I would prefer not to use iceberg.
No iceberg metaphors.
Yeah. And if you're going to use iceberg, the way I like my iceberg is lettuce with a little bit of ranch dressing. The tip of the iceberg, from what I remember, that did not turn out real well for those people that were sailing to New York. So I would I can see scratching the surface. We're just taking baby steps. We're on our way, but that's just me.
It does feel, though, like that comment, I think that will resonate with people. Again, college football is a week-to-week thing. We could be sitting here next week saying, boy, did they suck versus South Carolina. But I think you're coming off that big win. It's the first win that the fan base could say, oh, okay, this is what I wanted to see. And for him to make this comment, I think people are going to be receptive to this comment, despite the iceberg metaphor. I think they'll be receptive.
And plus, the coach likes it when the team cleans up a lot of things he sees is holding you back, right?
Yeah.
When you limit a lot of the mistakes and penalties. So I can see where he's coming from.
All right, when we come back, we'll bring out our VFLs again, and we'll talk about the Missouri game. Well, one, I want to see how long does it usually take a coaching staff to buy into a new head coach? And then also, how big was this game for the players yesterday? They dumped Gatorade on Josh Heupel's head, so that tells you they have bought in. But as Marlon kind of alluded to in a previous segment, how important was it to get real, tangible rewards for the players? We'll discuss all that next. Come on back on the Sports Source.
Thanks for choosing us to entertain,
complete with tension and biting humor.
and inform you. This is the Sports Source.